welcome to Outside the Box. I'm your host, Margot. You're tuned into Project Artichoke, also known as Project Bluebird. If you caught my short last week, I was kind of tapping the surface of each one of these sub-projects. So we're going to go ahead and end this part of the MK Ultra sub-project program. So you know that both of these are two different projects. Many are misinformed when it comes to both of these covert intelligence programs, believing that both Project Artichoke and Project Bluebird are one and the same, when that is so far from the truth. Project Artichoke was created in 1951 by CIA Director Allen Dulles and began 2 years later in 1953. I believe Project Artichoke was kind of like a cover name for Project Bluebird. However, the objective of Project Artichoke was to research and develop strategically thought out methods of interrogation. Artichoke's program gathered information from each branch of the military, including the FBI, and I feel like this was a step in the right direction considering where MK Ultra actually started from, which was like Operation Midnight Climax, which I feel was like a disaster in itself. However, Artichoke's program did gather from all intelligence agency, military as well as law enforcement. They carried out in-house and overseas experiments with the use of the CIA's miracle drug LSD, hypnosis, and total isolation as forms of psychological harassment for special interrogations. Cocaine, marijuana, heroin, mescaline, and peyote, these were like drugs that were used back then recreational, but obviously it was not useful to the CIA. LSD seemed to work best when it came to what they were needing it for, which was to erase the memory of the agent's experience, resulting in fogged amnesia and leaving the agent with zero to no memories. So in a memo dated in January 1952, asked, can we get control of an individual to the point where he or she will do our bidding against his or her will, even against fundamental laws of nature, such as self-preservation. So this is when we start kind of getting into Project Bluebird. Project Bluebird was actually wanting to see if we can get an individual to involuntarily commit assassination or become an assassin. So when it comes to Project Bluebird, I feel like this was one of the unethical sides of the MK Ultra projects or sub-projects, considering if this is like a civilian. Because remember, if we think back to Operation Midnight Climax, these people were supposed to be like regular civilians, even though we know that the target was military special operations to make sure either can you withhold information or can we extract this information from you. So Project Bluebird would be, to me, considered the idea of a mad scientist. How far are you going to go with this? So civilians should not be committing any forms of intelligence, military or tactical operations. Project Bluebird would be the reason for the dark cloud that covers MK Ultra, not thinking of the history side and the fundamental side of the growth of our military services as well as our government. It was like the foundation of it. Remember, this is starting, 1940s? So we have that era, the 1950s, where regular people, they're like all whatever. Everything is Betty Crocker, shake and bake. We're like, oh my God, the perfect housewife. And on the other side of it, we're over here getting compromised by Korea, and our military services is being compromised. This is how America is ran. So the higher ups, or however you want to call it, was being compromised. We're still evolving with our military services as well as any type of secret services or operations. So just so you know, Project Artichoke was for strategic methods of interrogation. Again, this goes hand in hand with any type of covert operations. And I feel like Project Bluebird was just like the cover, or Project Artichoke was the cover for creating an assassin. And when you think of that, it might be needed, but that's what we have military services and CIA operations and covert operations for. So I'd like to thank you for tuning in to Outside of the Box. Stay safe and informed, and remember to like and subscribe.